Hi, this is TK Pillan, and this is another episode of Awesome Vegans.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. So this is a very special treat to have you in the house. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
Very kind. Okay, so we've got a lot of business to talk about today. So, often on this show I'll have politicians or athletes or celebs, but I don't get many businessmen. So although Ethan Brown was sitting in your seat not too long ago, so I really want to talk to you about the business world of the plant-based community. So I think we all know it's skyrocketing and that there are more restaurants and more businesses. But I'm curious from your perspective as the co-founder of Veggie Grill and also now as one of the leaders in PowerPlant Ventures.
Correct, yeah.
I'm curious where you see us going for plant-based foods and restaurants.
Well, I started Veggie Grill 13 years ago, 2006, and what's happened over the last 13 years, especially the last 5 to 10 years, is really phenomenal in terms of the growth. You could see some of the latest stats are 1 in 4 millennials identify as vegan or vegetarian, which is, for me, amazing given where it was 13 years ago, and when you walk down the street and see vegan on billboards and plant-based prominently promoted in windows of restaurants. We've definitely gotten a point where I think we're past the tipping point of awareness. Now certainly it depends on regions of the country, but in the coasts and in the big cities, we're really accelerating the growth.
So I have to ask you a business question about this because I'm not sure. So there's a stat that doesn't make sense to me. So things we're hearing every day in the news, like yesterday, 1.1 million kids are now going to have meatless Mondays in New York. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
I love you, PCRM, for making that happen. So the mayor said, okay, all schools meatless on Mondays. So when you see things like that, I'm confused by the stat that says there's still only maximum 6% of the U.S. is vegan. And I find that hard to believe when you're getting 1 out of 4 millennials as interested in a plant-based diet.
I think there's the millennials are one audience. There's still a lot of the population that doesn't fit in that segment, and then when you really break it down to vegans, that's a smaller segment than predominantly plant-based or vegetarian. And so I think there's also something around the stats and how they compile the stats.
Yes, sure.
But there's no doubt people are trying to incorporate more plants in their diet. The debate around whether it makes sense from a health standpoint is generally over. The debate about whether it makes sense from a sustainability standpoint is generally over. So those are, I think, 2 big things that we're past.
I love that you say that because, as you guys know, I do a lot of radio on WGN Radio in Chicago, and I'm doing more and more radio here in Los Angeles. I had a radio show in Chicago, and someone basically attacked me for saying that there was any environmental connection between animal agriculture and climate change. And of course, all you need to do, folks, is go to the UN report on climate change, and you'll see that one of their recommendations, among others, but one of their top recommendations on a short list of recommendations is to eat less meat, to curtail the impact of factory farming. So sometimes I think we're past it, and sometimes I think we're not.
I think at this point, there's so many credible sources that have the data published that if people choose not to believe it, that's not your problem. Although we would like everybody to believe it. If people want to go out of their way not to believe it, I'm not worried about those people as much as I'm worried about getting the people who are starting to open their eyes or becoming plant curious to give them great options that make it easy for them to keep going.
Yeah, I love this. I'll just say that the person cited as their reference study from the Farm Agricultural Bureau. So I don't think they were objective. I'll just say that. Okay, so I know that you have a new venture, mostly plants, that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I still want to maybe give some stats to everybody who's listening and then talk to you about where you think we're going. So these stats come from the Good Food Institute. Shout out to Brad Barbera. I love what you guys do. So as I understand it, plant-based foods are up 17%. from last year. In the plant-based meat category specifically, it's up 23%. One of my favorite stats is that Grubhub, and this is from 2017, so we don't even have 2018 yet. Grubhub had plant-based orders up 19%, and that's in 2017. You gave a favorite stat I have as well of, 1 out of 4 millennials. I think restaurant menu penetration, so the percentage of menus across the United States that now have vegan options is 11.2%.
Beautiful.
That's huge. That's huge. So obviously these numbers are all up and growing. So that's where we are now. But where do you see us going in the future? And by that I mean specifically, what kind of innovation are we going to see?
Sure. So again, having been in this for 13 years, there were some pioneers before us that were doing yeoman's work, helping to create the path, and I'd call that Veggie 1.0, and I think I was part of the Veggie 2.0 or Vegan 2.0 movement, and now we're really seeing, I think, waves 4.0 and 4.0 and 5.0, and there's amazing entrepreneurs coming out of college, and their passion is to continue to make it easier and more enjoyable and more accessible to eat plant-based foods, and so now we're seeing a lot of new plant-based meats coming with different ethnic focuses and flavors and meeting different occasions. Same thing on the cheese side of it. I'm sure you could see all the new yogurts coming out.
Yes.
And then in every category, we're starting to see more and more plant-based options. And it's really, it starts with consumer demand and the awareness that's being created by great people like yourself and everybody else out there who's helping to open people's eyes to the benefits of plant-based foods. And that demand is then helping to generate the opportunities for entrepreneurs to try and meet that demand, and they're doing it. So we're in a great virtuous cycle right now of consumer demand and entrepreneurs creating new solutions, and similar to the tech sector, although it doesn't move quite as quickly, but we're seeing that virtuous circle of continued innovation.
It's such an interesting dance. So I think it starts with consumers, but then you get the product push from the companies, and so at some point, so this is a different kind of tipping point, at some point it will be driven, I would think, mutually by both. And what I mean by that is, at some point, someone maybe in the Midwest who doesn't get this kind of information a lot will no longer really be asking themselves the question, should I have meat or should I not have meat, given my traditions or what I'm used to, etc. But they'll just pick what's on the shelf, and what will be available to them is what they'll take. So it will be, at some point, it'll come from the manufacturers. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think there's a huge cultural and habitual aspect that we've been fighting against for the last forever, in terms, but basically the last 50 years, because the first wave of innovation around food was around how to make meat and dairy cheap, easily accessible, and as tasty as possible. And that created habits from a culture standpoint. We all know where McDonald's stands in our in the history of Americana and Coke, and so those habits and culture created a lot of meat and dairy consumption, and now we're starting to see that change. Like I love it when I go to Veggie Grill and I see kids eating their veggie chicken nuggets and having their plant-based burgers, and that's their new norm and habit. And so that's happening every day, where you have parents and adults and kid and millennials and Gen Z who've grown up this way, and now they're bringing their kids up this way. And so the culture and the habits are starting to change. It takes a while. That's why we're still in that 10 to 20% range, depending on what stats you look at. And so it's going to take time for this cultural and habitual change to penetrate through most of the country, but it's definitely happening.
What's the 10 to 20% range that you're talking about?
When you mentioned the 6% vegans,
I see. Okay.
millennials.
Right. Yes.
I see.
Yes. Well, so a couple more stats. Let's give some Veggie Girl stats while we're at it, folks. So you did start Veggie Girl in 2006. You're calling that 2.0, but for me, that was like, wow, you guys were on the forefront of 1.0. You're now in California, Washington, Oregon, and Illinois. So shout out to the new Veggie Grills that are in downtown Chicago, as well as the one in Lincoln Park. I think you have 3 there now,
We do, yep.
which is awesome. And I think there even more are going to open.
We have
and
one more opening this summer, yeah.
And one's going to open in Connecticut. Isn't that right? Did I read that right?
In Boston.
In Boston.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
In New York City.
Wonderful. 70% of the people who eat at Veggie Grill are not vegan or vegetarian.
That's correct.
So again, another stat from the Good Food Institute, all the growth is really coming from flexitarians, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, exactly right. I think we'd love people to be 100% plant-based, but we know there's a lot of people. Just it takes time and it takes effort. And so the whole vision and goal for Veggie Grow is to open people's eyes up and get people who wouldn't necessarily seek out a vegan or vegetarian restaurant to give it a try. And so we architected Veggie Grill to really appeal to flexitarians or mainstream health-conscious eaters, knowing that we were pretty sure if we created great vegan and vegetarian food, that the vegans and vegetarians hopefully would support us as well, and they have they certainly do.
And I'm curious, at Veggie Grill, in the Veggie Grill world, what's the most popular item? Is it the salads or bowls or sandwiches or burgers?
It's it's like asking which of your kids is better, but
fair enough. Don't do that.
But certainly we have great burgers that people love, like our Beyond Burger and our Santa Fe crispy chicken sandwich. We have some great salads, like our quinoa power salad, and great bowls like our rustic farm bowl and Snorm bowl that are generally more popular than the other items in those categories. Mm-hmm. But we think every one of our menu items has a special reason for being.
That's wonderful. So every time I'm at Veggie Grill, because I go all the time, I go to bowls. It's bowl town for me every time I'm there. Okay, so when I was at Expo West, were you there?
I was there, yeah.
Okay, so Expo West is a food show, a natural food show, but it's really now almost a plant-based food show.
Plant-based is a dominating theme now.
Yes.
So again, that goes to this comment of, at this point, it's not the debate of whether plant-based is better for you health-wise is going away. Now people who want to develop healthier foods are generally focused on plant-based.
So to that specifically, I saw a lot of chips at Expo West. I saw a lot of cookies. And hard to go with the health claim. I mean, you know what I mean? Sure. Then it becomes a marketing slogan like everything else. And what I don't want to see, what I'm hoping doesn't happen, is that it becomes a fad. So I don't want to see people saying like, oh, they said it was healthy, but now I'm eating cookies. They just don't have milk or dairy. So I'm not losing any weight. It's not really any healthier. Oh, well.
Yeah.
So what do you say about that?
So it all comes back to where you want to be on that
scale,
healthy eating spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So I love a good vegan dessert, and definitely on the weekends, especially Friday, Saturday night, I love Veggie Grill cookies, Hail Mary desserts.
Yeah, Hail Mary, ooh.
But at the same time, I focus on predominantly whole food plant-based, so 2 out of 3 meals. Mm-hmm. And then the third meal, maybe a good Beyond Burger with cheese and fries on the side, because people do need to indulge. I think that's why you've got these huge markets of indulgent foods, and so we need to create vegan versions of those, so people who want to indulge but also support the environment and not support factory farming have options. But if you want to be purely 100% eating for health, then you should focus on whole food plant-based. But I think most people generally aren't going to be 100%, and so the plant-based world needs to continue to fill in all of those pieces of your eating puzzle.
Right.
And,
Right. I love that, because not everybody follows the same diet. Not everyone should follow the same diet. So it's up to us to come up with all the choices, and then the consumer has to do their part. Ultimately, they've got to figure it out for themselves as well. So when I was at Expo West, some of the great products that I fell in love with. Do you know Faba Butter?
I do. Yeah.
I love that team. They've been on this show.
Oh, good.
I really love them. Of course, Light Life has branded for a new burger. They were on my WGN radio show recently. Of course, Ethan Brown. So 2.0. Beyond Meat had their 2.0, which was so super fun. There's cheese out of Scotland. Did you go to this booth called Sheesh?
I didn't see that one.
It's over. The debate about cheese, thank you, Scotland. It's over. They had so many kinds of cheeses, and it's over. It's over. So they're not in the U.S. yet. You know, many of these booths filled with products are going to market as we speak. So this is going to be in Whole Foods in about 2 months. It's called Sheesh, Sheeese.
That's great. Awesome.
Yes, awesome. Awesome.
And I did see some other great new vegan cheeses as well. So
yes,
it's happening. Yeah.
There's a cheese that won best something or other. It was made with sauerkraut brine.
Yeah, wild brine.
Wild brine. Yeah, they do a brie that's pretty rock star. So
and there's another company, Riot Eats, that's coming to market soon that has a pretty good meltable cheddar cheese.
Oh, is that right? Right. I'm writing that down. Riot Eats, and then
Riot Eats. Yeah.
Riot Eats and Outstanding Foods.
Yeah.
You've probably heard of them. They're doing. Daniela Monet was just on this show. She's an investor in that, talking about how they're making chips not with pork rinds but with mushrooms. So very awesome. So what do you focus on as one of the leaders of PowerPlant Ventures? What do you focus on when you decide you want to invest in a company?
Yeah, good question. We have to take a real a consumer lens. Is this product meeting a real compelling consumer need that's not being met currently?
Yeah.
Where does it fit in that overall puzzle? And then once we look at that, then we look at the team itself, because building a business takes a lot of effort and certain skill sets, and so we want to make sure there's a team that we think with the right capital can really grow the company.
Yes.
And we've got to look at the brand itself, because one of the tricky parts about food is there's so much noise out there.
Yes.
So being able to have a product and a brand position and messaging and visual platform that breaks through and gets consumers' attention is very important. And so we look to make sure the team and the product are, have the right brand sensibility as well, because that's what it takes to really break through to the non-vegan seekers. And,
Right.
And so ultimately we're trying to figure out, because we're a fund and we have to keep doing what we're doing, we want to deliver a return to our investors. Like personally, I'd love for all of these companies to do well, and I hope they do, but from a fund perspective, we have to look at companies that we think can grow to a point where they'll have some sort of realization from a investment standpoint, whether they get purchased or able to go IPO. And then we can show our investors a great return, and then we can keep doing it. Right? So that's where business comes in, and the fundamentals of business are important to allow the vegan and plant-based movement to grow, because the more successful you are, the more capital you get to keep doing it.
Okay, so you give capital in stages, and then you look. It seems like you focus as much on the team as you focus on the product. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's you got to have a great product, but then you got to have a team that can really take that product and build a successful company around it.
Well, one of the brands that you currently have in your portfolio, are you looking for new brands, by the way?
Sure.
You are?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, everybody. Okay, you can just make that happen. One of the brands that I love, so I personally love Ripple. That's wonderful. I love Beyond Meat. Of course, these are great brands, but I don't want to say that the innovation isn't there. That's not true. There's gobs of innovation, but there was a hamburger, and now we've got Beyond Meat. So you have something specifically in mind to compare it to make it better. Gobs of innovation there. What I like also is Farmer's Fridge.
Oh, okay.
So there was nothing, to my mind, there's nothing really like Farmer's Fridge And now there's Farmer's Fridge. And I will give the short description. You can tell me if I've got this right. Basically, vending machines that have fresh salads available in places like airports and L stops or, metro line stops, et cetera. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. That's right. So they're filling another piece of the puzzle. Where
Yes.
we can't put a veggie grill everywhere.
Right.
And there's people are rushing around when they're traveling or
Love
in certain
it.
locations. And previously, all you could do is grab packaged food, and
Right.
And now you can grab a salad.
Which I think is so awesome because I'm one of those people. I'm running around on the airport. I don't want any fast food. Very rarely are there vegan options, although I'll shout out to O'Hare, which now does have something in the United Terminal, FYI. But I usually just go to one of the magazine stores and I get nuts because that's my option, right? Nuts and dried fruit. And so the fact that there are these vending machines coming, Farmer's Fridge, I just think that is really super cool. So I don't know if you're at liberty to say, but are you looking for... When you choose which brands to focus on, are you looking to complement your portfolio already? So do you ever say, I have enough milk, I have enough chips, I have enough cookies. Now we're looking for X, or no?
We don't look at it specifically that way because these categories are so big that even though we're investors in Beyond Meat, there could be another company that comes along with a specific type of meat product that meets a different occasion, a different flavor profile. Same thing with dairy. Certainly, we generally shy away from something that's directly competitive with one of our existing companies. But at the same time, our companies get to a certain point where they grow, and then we're no longer involved. And so then we have the freedom to invest in other companies that we think are filling specific subcategory niches within that broader category. So I would say there's really no restriction.
Well, then I'll ask you one final question maybe before we get into some other stuff. Everyone wants to know, when's the IPO for Beyond Meat going to happen? Come on, tell us.
Yeah, I have no comment on that.
Somehow I knew you would say that. All right, you're not giving me any hints.
I would not like Ethan to call me upset after this, so I'm not going to comment.
Fair enough. Well, okay, then maybe one last question before we hop to another subject. So in all your years of PowerPlant, what has surprised you the most? What did you not see coming down the pipeline in this industry that you have studied so much that has surprised you? Good or bad?
I think I'm just surprised how quickly it's changed, and how quickly the big food companies decided we need to focus on plant-based. Because when we first started Veggie Grill, the big food companies were doing their best to preserve their existing market share, and whereas probably around 3 years ago, it seemed like they all said, you know what? We can't fight this anymore. We need to be part of it, and they're investing in it, actively looking at repositioning some of their products and launching new products. So I'm surprised that, and to their credit, how quickly some of the bigger food companies are starting to move in this direction.
So from that, I there's a lot for me to sort of feed on, if you will. I was hiking in Bhutan. It's a little segue. And, not many Americans in Bhutan. And one of the hikers that I bumped into was an American engineer working at Cargill. Okay. And he said that Cargill is very focused on plant-based, that they see that that's the future, that they see that things are going to change very quickly. And they're trying to get all of their investment in place so that when the consumer does turn, when the market does go, they're going to be ready. They don't know exactly when it's going to be, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, but it's going to be fast, and they want to be ready and positioned. So just like Tyson, they've changed their name from a meat company to a protein company. Yep. And they're at Expo West. I don't know if you stopped by their booth.
I didn't.
But one of the goals that they had, they put in a line all the things that they could do for companies: take you to market, get you more market growth, redesign your products, whatever. One of them was take you plant-based. So that's so I think, just to your point, how quickly big companies are getting into this. But I don't know if there's anything that you thought, like, I thought this would happen faster, but it didn't.
Well, certainly we would love to have more veggie grills, but
you already have 27, I think.
33.
33.
Yeah. but it just takes time to open restaurants across the country. Restaurants it's really hard work finding the right locations, and because I get it all the time. We'd love a veggie grill in Atlanta or Austin or Boulder, and I said I would love one too. We just if we go too quickly, we won't be able to deliver the type of experience we want to deliver. We won't get into good locations that will support our business model. So launch the restaurant, it takes a while to grow a restaurant company. So that was a surprise on the negative side, but we're doing it.
You are doing it because you are the largest vegan vegetarian restaurant, be it fast food or not fast food. You are the largest, period. Even I think larger than Matthew Kenny. Is that right?
I would guess so, yeah.
Yes, just because he has so many restaurants that are plant-based. But okay, and what about jobs? So again, sometimes I get questions like, "Oh, well, are you anti-farmer? Is that why you're doing this?" Which of course is ridiculous. I'm for the record, I am not anti-farmer. In fact, I actually think that this is going to be a huge opportunity for farmers.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be more business here because, and correct me if I've got this wrong, plant agriculture takes so much less space than animal agriculture that you're going to have a lot more land to either grow trees for the environment or make more food, sell more food, grow more food, make more money. So I think this is a huge opportunity for farmers. Would you agree?
Sure. I think with every change, tech is a great example. There's disruption. There's different areas that start losing revenue, but then there's new areas that generate revenue.
Right.
And what's great about America is we continue to move forward and quickly look to progress. And so hopefully I would imagine farmers are doing the same. And I think the last piece of the wheel, or the stool, the third leg of the stool, that will just make everything just accelerate even more is government. We've got consumers, we've got companies, but right now governments are subsidizing certain crops, and which then turn into animal feed, and so they kind of are keeping the farmers to focused on doing a certain thing. And so hopefully over time, and this might take longer, but over time, government and politicians will start supporting what's good for people and good for the planet, and start incentivizing farmers to do the same. And then I think we'll be on our way to really solving this problem we have around health and sustainability.
And I would think that job growth is a big part of that equation. So if politicians have an opportunity to say, I'm bringing more jobs to the community, then they're likely to get behind it. I don't know if you have any information. I have more stats today, people, and we're kind of doing a business show from the Plant-Based Food Association. Now, these are stats from 2016, so they are in the process of updating this, but there were 61,000 jobs in the plant-based world. I think that's very small for 2019, but in 2016, there were 61,000 jobs in the plant-based sector, and I would think that would be growing, and the economic opportunity for workers as well would be growing.
Certainly plant-based brands are growing quickly and generating jobs, and then demand for plant-based products and plant-based the supply of ingredients that support plant-based products is growing quickly. There's a lot of activity right now in the plant-based protein side of it. People developing new types of protein from chickpeas and mushrooms and mung beans, and so all those are great opportunities. I know one of the companies we're involved with, Nutriati, is focused on chickpea protein, and their ultimate vision, because they're based in Virginia, is for people, tobacco farmers, to have new sources of revenue, and they can start converting some of their farms to chickpeas. So there's your example.
Oh my God! If that isn't a win-win for everybody. Less smoking, more chickpeas. I mean, who could go wrong there? Yeah. Wonderful. So that's really one of the things that I'm focusing on. I keep trying to find better stats on job growth and economic inputs that are positive for people. I think when you start talking about money in people's wallets,
Yeah.
Which, side note, it's very expensive to be sick. So a healthier diet is also a way to put more money in your pocketbook. But if you're looking at a direct paycheck, I think you're going to see a lot of growth opportunity in the plant-based world, and that's going to be very invigorating for people. Maybe even, and I'm just saying this, I have no stats for this, maybe even bringing back manufacturing a tad bit to the U.S. I mean, as we make these products here, there's that possibility, and I know that's important to a lot of people.
The more we grow here, the more we set up the plants to create the ingredients from those crops.
That's right. Absolutely. And we are, correct me if I'm wrong, the United States is leading this, correct? Or China as well?
I don't know the exact stats there.
Okay.
But the U.S. grows, we've got a lot of farmland here. We grow a lot of the soybeans, a lot of the wheat, and we could certainly start growing. We're starting to see it on the pea side of it, which is now becoming a popular ingredient. We're hoping to increase it on the chickpea side. So it's about, and it's good for the environment too. We need to get away from mono crops.
Right. Diversity in crops and what we eat. Yeah, for the land and for us.
Yeah.
And we haven't touched on it today, but I am obliged to say, and of course for the animals. Of course. And I always feel, this is a not business topic, but I always feel that, you know, we complain as a society that we're very violent and that we have school shootings and random acts of violence on block after block and city after city. And I think if you take out all this violence that we ingest in our food supply 3-4 times a day, I think it will be very interesting to see what kind of shift we make consciously, mentally, societally, if that's possible.
I would agree 100%. And clearly, when you eat well and eat 100% plant-based or mostly plant-based, you generally feel better, and not only physically but emotionally. And I think there's been several studies that are coming out showing that healthy people are less depressed, and so there's a direct correlation. Right, and so you take care of yourself, and the biggest way you can take care of yourself is what you eat, and that translates into your overall emotional health and ability to handle issues and see things in a positive light. So I agree 100%.
Yeah. Side note: I had Team USA volleyball champion Dustin Watton on this show, and he said, you know, as an athlete, you're really programmed to be like, hey, in your face, and I'm going to take you down, and all this kind of stuff. And he said when he switched to a whole food plant-based diet, he really felt his anger dissipate. Yeah. And so he's still totally energetic on the court, a complete champ, but he handles it in a very different way. And I thought that was a very interesting comment.
I certainly, just waking up, I'm a lot more energetic and calm and peaceful than, I've been vegan for 13 years, and so, or 14 now, and it just changes your whole general mindset from just you wake up and you're just less stressed. Right. And of course we want to be kind to ourselves because it's already pretty stressful out there, people. Like, we don't need more stress. So I think you're helping people do that. You have a new business. He's very busy. Veggie Grill, PowerPlant, and now you have Mostly Plants. Tell us what that business is all about. So that was kind of a side project when we were near the end of our first fund with PowerPlant and getting ready for our second. I had this pet peeve or kind of problem I had personally, whereas a lot of people come to me because they kind of hear about the benefits of plant-based but have no idea how to make the change and ask me for advice. And I do my best to help them, but it became pretty clear to me that I can only help people that went through the exact same transition I went through, had a similar background, lifestyle, family that I had. My wife's always been vegetarian, and so I wanted to create something that would help all these people who decided, they think they might want to do it, but need some real guidance, almost a best friend to help them do it. And so Mostly Plants is designed to be that. We've got a whole video catalog of 28 videos that take you through every piece of the transition from just what is whole food versus what's not whole food. How do you balance that, like we were talking about before? So we kind of recommend, well, you don't have to be 100%. If you're 80% whole food, plant-based, breakfast and lunch, then you can have a little comfort plant-based food for dinner. And if you really need a flex meal, go ahead and take it. But we kind of know that once you get into the rhythm, you won't need those flex meals.
Yes.
And so that was the goal with Mostly Plants as well. Is some people hear vegan and vegetarian and just think they can't do it. So Mostly Plants was named to make it something people who are in that category of I could never be vegan or vegetarian, to give them a program, kind of a Weight Watchers-like program, but really geared towards wellness, and guide them through it and be their best friend. And we have a on-call support team as well, where just like you have a best friend, you can call or text when you have a question, whatever it is.
Lifeline.
That's what Mostly Plants is. So I'm excited about it. I got some great partners who are working full-time on it. And we just launched, and our goal is to help people make the transition.
And is it online only?
It is.
Okay, so mostlyplants.com.
Yep.
Everybody hit that up. Are you a food delivery service at all? No one orders food from you, right? It's a menu.
We are a empowerment vehicle to help empower you with the knowledge and so that you can make the change. It took us all, I think a lot of people who made the transition, it took them a while. They faced a few different challenges, and not everybody has the knowledge and support to get through those challenges, and that's what Mostly Plants is for.
I think that's awesome, because as TK was saying, once you're on the rhythm, you stay on the rhythm, but the opposite is true as well. Once you fall off the wagon, it's easy to stay off the wagon. So I think I don't know if support group is really the way to say it, but this kind of best friend walking you through it, helping you get back on, I think is so awesome. So shout out to mostlyplants.com. But also, I'm hoping that as we go on and on with all the companies that you're bringing to market at PowerPlant, people are going to have more options. It's not going to be so hard for them. There's not going to be this thing that they have to really call a friend and say, help me. Yep. But they're going to be able to get through the grocery aisle, get through the restaurant menu, and be like, yep, I got my option here. I got my option here. They all taste good. They're all, if not completely healthy, they're better for me than meat, dairy. So I think it's all moving in the right direction.
Yep.
Any hiccups, not hiccups to focus on the negative, but just anything that you've learned in the Mostly Plant space that you could share from a business perspective? What was harder? What was easier?
Well, we just launched it. So, we're going to learn over the next 6 months. But what I've learned in general is just how much food is ingrained in our culture and our mindset. And so it just takes time for some people to get there.
Yes.
And so we just need to keep working on opening people's eyes, giving them options, giving education, because it just takes a lot for people to change their food habits.
I think to that point, it is a lot of culture and history and tradition, but it's also a gosh darn large amount of advertising and government pushing certain things. And what you think is healthy for you, heads up, it's not always healthy for you. And what you think is tradition, or what is sold to you as tradition, is not always tradition. I mean, if you look at traditionally how people ate, they ate meat rarely. It was a treat. It was something that they waited for. There is nothing traditional about the way we treat animals and force them in the billions. PhD and former vice president of Citibank, I've interviewed him. He's a math guy. He knows the numbers. 7 billion people on the planet. When I interviewed him a year ago, so I'm sure it's more now, we kill 100 billion animals a year for food, and we do that through factory farming. This is around the world. Nothing traditional about that. That's not how animals were raised. That's not how they graze. That's not how we ever used to eat them. So we're told that eating meat is a tradition, but there's never been a tradition like this. So even if you go to Mostly Plants and you're 90% plant and you have meat from time to time, we could have a conversation about where the tradition is in that. I get it. Factory farming, ain't nothing like that.
Yeah.
So Okay, enough of me. I will go to my quickie questionnaire that I love to have at the end of every interview. Okay, here's a series of questions. We're looking for one-word answers, give or take.
Okay.
Some are trickier to do that than others, but this is meant to be right off the top of your head. The first thing that comes to your mind,
okay.
What are we always going to find in your fridge?
Soy milk, organic.
Okay, are you giving us a brand name or not? You don't have to.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Okay, he'll take a pass on that. Okay, what are your favorite snacks? Could be healthy, could be junk food.
Favorite snacks. Love my Hail Mary desserts and my Bean Fields chips. Full disclaimer, we're investors in both of these companies. But I also love my Elemental raw refrigerated bars, which we're not investors in.
Ooh, Elemental, okay. I have to tell you, I've had Hail Mary, but only once. It was hard for me to find, only once. And then Bean Fields I've never had.
Oh, yeah,
I'm going to have
really
to get
good.
on that.
Yeah.
Okay, an Elemental. All right, ooh, and they're raw and in your fridge. The Elemental bars, okay.
Yeah.
What is your go-to meal? You've had a really long day. You don't have time to cook. You can walk through the door. You know that you're going to have all the ingredients. You're going to make it in 10 minutes. It's going to be super fast. Your go-to meal.
So there's a secret about me. I don't cook. I've never cooked.
Okay, secret about me. I love to cook, as you all know. And you can find all my recipes at elizabethalfano.com. Huge cook.
So, yeah, I don't cook. So my go-to meal is
the Elemental bar.
Veggie grill delivered.
I like the way you roll.
Although my wife is a great cook.
Awesome.
But for me, it's depending on if I'm in an indulge mood. It's a Beyond Burger with fries. If I'm in I need to eat a little healthier that evening. It's one of our bowls, a Snoren bowl or a Rustic Farm bowl with a side of Bean Fields bean chips. And a kombucha.
And a kombucha, yeah. So shout out also, I have to say, to Brew Doctor. I love them. They've been super supportive of me. I drink this stuff all the time. So good for you. And I also have your Rustic Farm Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one of my very faves. Do you have any pets? And if so, do you think they're any different than farm animals?
I don't think they're different than farm animals. I have quite a few pets. I have 2 big dogs. We're both vegan and doing great.
The dogs are vegan.
Yeah. One's 85 pounds, 10 years old. The other one's 75 pounds and 6, and they're doing great on their vegan diet.
What kind of dog?
One's a Lab Rottweiler mix, both rescues. The other one's a Australian Shepherd, German Shepherd mix. Then we got a cat that thinks he's part of the pack.
I love it.
Hangs out with them.
That's awesome.
And the cat's pescatarian. I've got, I'll hopefully find a good vegan cat food, but right now the cat has a little fish in his diet.
Yes. People are probably going to scream at me for this, but I would say there's tradition in cats eating fish. Like that, want to talk tradition, that I get. I think harder for them to switch me, but I don't know that for a fact. I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, so. And my wife raises guide dogs. So we have a 4th puppy in the house now too.
Wow, how sweet. Okay, but no different than farm animals.
Yeah.
In like their ability to perceive or walk through the world or have emotion or...
Yeah.
Okay. What do you wish you knew 10 years ago that you know now?
I think it's all about the team you surround yourself with. I think I generally knew that, but that lesson gets reinforced every year, stronger and stronger. It's all about making sure you're aligned. You have people you're surrounding yourself with people who are aligned with your vision and your values, and then are complementary in skill sets.
I will riff on that and say, so not a whole heck of a lot of advantage to age. Oh, but there are some, and they're good ones. And for mine, surround yourself with people who get the vision. Get out if they don't. Like, my time is really limited, and time is the currency I care the most about, really, when it comes down to it. I surround myself with people who get the vision, and the rest, no, will not do it. Yeah. What is your favorite phrase that you live by? And I'll give you an example so that you can kind of think on it. One of mine is nose to the grindstone, eyes to the sky.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think mine would be count your blessings.
Oh, nice.
Do your best and control what you can control.
Oh, I like it. I always have to remind myself of that one. Control what you can control. Only focus on that. Don't give your energy to all the rest that you have no control over. Maybe we've talked about this, but maybe not. I'll sort of let you clarify. Do you think you have a sense of purpose? And part B to that question is, what would you like to be known for? They're sort of similar, but could be different.
I feel fortunate that I've been able to really hone in on what I think I can bring to the world, which is be somebody who helps businesses succeed and bring plant-based foods to a mainstream audience. And there's different pieces of my background that I think have helped get me to this point, but I really do feel my purpose is to help more people eat more plants and get more people who wouldn't ordinarily eat more plants to start getting to eat more plants more specifically, which is what I love to try and do, and feel like that's my purpose in the world, and certainly I've aligned that with my business pursuits.
And is that what you'd like to be known for?
That, in addition to being a great father and a great husband, and at some point see if I could give back to society outside of just helping them improve their diets. But that part I'm going to wait on and really focus on the diet, sustainability, health, and reducing factory farming side of it.
Thank you for all of that. So my last question, I'm going to leave it really vague so you can fill it in at how you see fit. What are your predictions for the future? That could be tomorrow, that could be 30 years from now, that could be in the plant-based world, that could be larger than that. What are your predictions for the future?
My prediction is within 10 years, I think we'll be at a point where the majority of the country is eating mostly plants.
10 years.
Yeah.
I'm keeping you to that.
Yeah.
10 years, we're going to really see that it's the majority of the country. So I have heard that 10 years would put us at like 2025, give or take, 2026. No, so sorry, where are we? 2029, huh? Okay, so before 2030. I've heard people say 2022, 2025.
Yeah, hopefully less.
But
hopefully less.
I've also heard people say 2050. So, okay, you're calling it 2029.
I think in the last 10 years, what I've seen, if that happens over the next 10 years, it'll definitely be more than half the country is trying to predominantly eat plant-based.
Yeah. I'll end today by saying it is a very exciting time that we live in. And I think more than ever, because the quality of our life depends on our food. As simple as that. And we haven't been eating as good as we could. And now that people are empowered to make their own decisions, despite what government and companies might have been pushing them to do in the past, we are empowered with our dollars, with our wallet to really vote at the grocery store for the quality of life that we want. And when we do that, I think we'll see the quality of our lives change because we'll be eating better and we're taking control of what comes down the pipeline to us. And I think that is very empowering and encouraging, and it's a very exciting time to live through. So you're a big part of that. You are a big part of that. Wow, super kind of you. But no kidding, shout out to Veggie Grill, which has been a leader and in the forefront of bringing vegetable and plant-based options to the world. And I hope you continue to grow. I hope you take 33 restaurants to 50 as soon as you can.
We're doing our best.
I know you are. And PowerPlant Ventures, Rockstar U. I'm following all the companies that you invest in, so I have my eye on all of those. And then mostlyplants.com, folks. Check it out. Very exciting to see where that leads. We'll have to have another interview, and you can tell me, well, this is what I learned at mostlyplants.com.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Wonderful. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
And don't forget to be vegan. Bye, everybody.
Bye.